So we're right on time, 6:30. And what I thought is just to centre ourselves, we'll do an Om, a chant of Om. Jacob's looking for his clock. Yeah. Anyone not done Om chanting before? Okay. So the sound of Om is made up of A, U and M, and I could write a book about it.
The next one.
So the important thing to know about Om is that it's really good for helping us to centre ourselves and to bring us in from life into this moment now. And good size clock. I won't lose track of time there. And they have actually done some scientific research on the effects of chanting Om and the benefits of it. I like to have an evidence base when I say something's good for us. And the A sound has been found to work on the central nervous system. The U is at the throat. And the sound, that humming type of sound, they've done a lot of research on humming. It works on the frontal lobes of the brain. So when we chant these three sounds, physiologically it's working on the body, but as I said before, it helps to bring us in from the day so that we can focus on what is happening in the present moment. So what we'll do is just listen to me for those who haven't done it before. It'll give you an idea. We take a breath in through the nose. And we're going to chant 3 more times together, feeling the mouth as you produce the sound and how the tongue moves to get the sound out. And then what you'll notice is the last part of the sound is reverberating up into the sinuses and forehead. So it's a short meditation on Om. Slowly breathing in. And feel the natural breath, body breathing in and out spontaneously. And as you're ready, open the eyes. Very good. So those who haven't done Om before, do you find it quietening, centering, or maybe a bit unusual? Yeah. So lovely to see everyone here this evening. And anyone here who knows nothing about yoga? Sarah. Anyone who knows a little bit about yoga? Anyone who knows a lot about yoga? Very good. So all varying degrees of knowledge. And I'm sure added up together we've got quite a powerful body of knowledge of yoga here. My interest in yoga started when I was 12 and I wanted to give up ballet, so my mother said, you have to do some form of exercise, otherwise you'll get fat. And actually, you know, when I lived in India, it reminds me of another story. My teacher, Swami Satyananda, said to me, and he would say this every year, sometimes in spiritual life it happens you get very thin. And compared to all the other people living in the ashram environment, I actually never got very thin. I was thinner than I am now, but you know, some people you could see the ribs on their backs. I never got that thin. And the last year I was there, Swami Satyananda said to me, sometimes in spiritual life it happens you get very, and there's a pause, and I thought, oh yes, thin. I've heard this every year. And then he said, fat. And I jumped. So I've done both those things. So I did what my mother told me I would do if I didn't do some form of exercise, and even doing some form of exercise, I still put on weight. And it has to do with many, many factors. And in the book I've talked about diet, and dietary requirements according to body types. Yeah, because this is an important aspect of life, understanding the foods to eat according to your body type that will promote a happy mind and happy emotions and a happy body. And I wrote this book, Energy, the Spark of Life, because I'd written 2 other books that were very D&M. And people who've been doing yoga with me now know what D&M is. For those who don't know, it's deep and meaningful. So the other 2 books were you know, very philosophical, let's say, and for people who are very interested in going deeply into yoga. And this book was for the average person to use without needing to go too deeply into it. And then as you practice and explore, there will be aspects that you want to go into more deeply because it interests you. And those aspects are the aspect of posture, asana. In Sanskrit, the word asana means a steady, comfortable position of the body. So when we practice yoga, if it's not comfortable and if our mind is not in our body, it's not yoga, we're doing exercise. So what's the difference between yoga and exercise is that component of being totally present in your experience of your body movement or your body stability. And if you have a deep interest at that level, then yoga can really fulfill that experience and that level of knowledge by going into all the muscles and the connective tissue and the bones. The yogis did that through their minds, and today we can do it from a different aspect, a scientific aspect, but we will come up with the same results, the same knowledge, knowing what these yoga asana postures are beneficial for. So in the book, what I have done is to explain how the posture is done, but also to explain what it's good for, but also what it's not good for. So if you have, for example, if you had high blood pressure, you wouldn't be doing an asana yoga posture with your head down and your bottom or feet up in the air. Yeah. So this is mentioned in the book, the limitations for specific asana posture. And then you could and can go fully into the breathing techniques, and we call that in yoga pranayama. Prana means a force in motion. Some people relate it to chi. I think prana is even more subtle than chi, to be quite honest, and the force in motion is the energy in the body, so it's related to chi in that way, but it's also what allows the energy to move as well. So the word pranayama means to expand your body's energy. It also means energy control. It can have two meanings because it's made up of prana, with a long A sound on the end, and ayama, or prana, with a long A on the end, and yama. So there's the word to control, yama, and there's the word to expand, ayama. And put it with prana, you've got pranayama. And we do this process of pranayama by controlling the breath, by controlling the inhalation, the exhalation, and then we can also do breath retention. After we breathe in, we can hold the breath, and that's called internal breath retention. And if you have high blood pressure, you don't do it. You breathe in, you breathe out, but you don't hold the breath. And then after exhaling, you can hold the breath again, and that's external breath retention. And when you practice this, what happens is that spontaneously the body stops breathing for a few seconds. And we call that spontaneous breath retention. And in the texts of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it says that this is the real pranayama, when the breath stops. Yeah. It's not for very long, it's a short while, maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and as you keep practicing, maybe a bit longer. But the body likes to breathe, and it will start breathing again. Yeah. And that's what I say to my students in class as we're doing yoga asana, because people start to concentrate and forget to breathe. So I always say, and we're breathing. Yeah. And they go, oh yes, I was holding my breath. I say later, not yet. Yeah, very important. And I say, your body likes to breathe, and I like it when you breathe too. So this evening, as I'm talking and you're listening from time to time, just check that you are breathing. Yeah, but this is what happens in life. We concentrate, or we get a fright, and we stop breathing. And we need to consciously remind ourselves, when life is stressful, we need to remind ourselves, breathe, slow the breath down. When we slow the breath, then we slow the mind. Yeah. So in the book I've listed various yoga practices that I hope are easy for people and doable, so that when you sit for a practice, you can read the instructions from the book and you can do it easily. And of course there are many things you can find on YouTube. There are many practices there. But what's really important is that you have a reference, a book that you can read, and then look at the YouTube. And then the next best thing is to have a teacher, because the teacher will know your individual needs for that particular practice. So we start off with a book, with YouTube, or we go to a teacher, and then we find we need all these 3 tools. Yeah. Asana, pranayama, mudra. This is an interesting topic, mudra. Mudra is a gesture, and it is an expression of an inner attitude. So we might have modern day mudras which are, let's say, mudras of frustration when we're caught in traffic jams. But the yoga mudras are an expression of an inner attitude that arises due to meditation, that arises due to an experience of the mind feeling balanced or blissful. And so these mudras are often related to hand positions. In the book I've demonstrated the mudras for the chakras, the energy points in the body, which I'll talk about in a moment. And there are mudras that we can do with our eyes, with our tongue, and with various muscles of the body. And what these mudras do is to direct energy to a particular area of the body as well as the brain. And I think this is important to understand, that when we do physical practices, it's really the brain that is doing it. Yeah. It's the mental concentration that affects the brain. So they did research with athletes. You might well know this. For the Olympic Games, for example, and athletes were hooked up to particular machines. I don't remember all the details of the particular machines, but they were able, the scientists were able to, the scientific researchers were able to see that when the athlete was mentally running the race, the muscles in their legs were actually firing. Which also means then that area in the brain is being stimulated, because I don't know if you're familiar with what's called the homunculus in the brain. There's a representation of your body right there, right, left brain hemispheres in the middle. And so when you move one area of the body, that part of the brain has energy moving around it. Okay? So when you're running a race, yes, your legs are moving, but that part of the brain is also being stimulated. There's energy moving in that part of the brain. So as an example, if you have a limb removed, that part of the brain is still intact. So you feel like you've got a phantom limb. Yes. So when you do these mudras, which are very subtle, as I said, it could be a hand position with your thumb tip against any of the fingertips. What you're doing here is connecting that area in your brain. When you take your right hand to your left shoulder, then you're connecting right-left brain, and vice versa. And you find that in yoga postures there's a lot of what I call heterolateral movement, opposite side of the body touching, which stimulates both sides of your brain. So when you do these mudras, they seem really subtle, and I'm saying, well, it directs energy, but it's also working on the brain. Everything's about the brain. Everything we do is about the brain. Yeah. These mudras are used for channeling energy and to work on the brain to assist all of us to achieve meditation. Yeah. Meditation being a quiet state of mind, a balanced state of mind where we can see clearly, a state of mind where we are able to observe ourselves. It's like having an aerial view. How do we get there? How do we become the satellite looking down on ourselves? How do we observe ourselves? So these practices of asana, pranayama, mudra take us towards meditation. And then the fourth practice is bandha. Bandha means to lock. So we lock various areas of our body. We can lock the throat by holding the breath. We bring the head forward, that locks the throat. It locks the energy here. Then we can pull the diaphragm area in towards the spine, provided we don't have food going through the system. You can't do it when you've just eaten. You pull the stomach, diaphragm area in towards the spine. It squeezes the digestive organs. It squeezes the blood out of this area. And when you release, you get a fresh blood supply to that area. And this is also how the asana postures work. So you're working physiologically as well as energetically. And these days they talk about a second brain in the stomach. You heard about that? So you're working on this second brain. Yeah. And then the third lock is pulling up the pelvic floor muscles. Everyone's told to do their pelvic floor exercises. What does that mean? I always explain it as, in the beginning, to pull up the pelvic floor towards the coccyx bone. That gives us a rough idea. So there's the lower lock, the middle lock, and the throat lock, and we can do all of them together. So what that does, it locks everything inwards, squeezes the blood out of this area, release, fresh blood supply. Yeah. You know the feeling when you get pins and needles? Mm-hmm. So what's happening there is the blood is being squeezed out of the area. You don't want to get to that point. You just gently squeeze and release. So you feel warmer and you feel warm inside. And those 4 practices help to quieten the mind, to prepare for meditation. It's a very broad word, meditation. And there are 4 states before we actually get there. And the first is sense withdrawal. And what that means is withdrawing the senses in from the world. So now you're listening to me and you're not focusing on the sounds outside of the room. You're not focusing on any smells that are happening, unless it was, whoa, that sort of smell. But, you know, your mind is focused basically on listening. So sense withdrawal means withdrawing the other senses. If you close your eyes, automatically the sense of vision withdraws. You're looking into the back of your eyelids. And as you do that, then you're withdrawing your sense of smell and taste and sensation. Last sense to withdraw is hearing, and then you fall asleep. The idea in meditation is to maintain awareness rather than to fall asleep. So what we do is we prolong that experience where we have withdrawn our senses into ourself. How do we maintain that and a balanced state of mind? The mind then goes everywhere. When you go to sleep at night, you withdraw the senses. In yoga, we call this pratyahara, means to withdraw the senses. And before sleep, we do that, and then we think about the day, we process the day. So initially in meditation, instead of processing the day, you prolong that experience of sense withdrawal and replace it with other thoughts. In Yoga Nidra, which is your first stage of meditation, you go through body parts and feel individual body parts. So you keep the mind moving. It is the nature of the mind to move, but we do this systematically. We go through body parts, and then we come to a state of quietness where we can focus on an idea or a visualization. We try to hold that for a period of time. And then we start to extrovert again. So what this is doing, it's teaching us how to sit for meditation, to become physically quiet, to quieten the mind, and then to focus on one thing. Meditation is being able to keep the mind focused on one thing without sleeping. Yeah. This is the challenge. Yeah. And when we practice the meditation, then all sorts of thoughts arise. If we're facing a challenge in life, that will be the first thought to arise. So we start processing that, and then we've totally gone off on a different tangent. Yeah. So meditation means to stay focused. When the mind starts to go off on a tangent, we bring it back. Each time we keep bringing it back. However, when we practice Yoga Nidra, I find that it is a useful state of mind to process challenges of life, because when we get to that state in Yoga Nidra where we are the observer and where we are watching objectively, we're not totally involved, we're not totally engrossed at an emotional level. So witnessing means that we step back from the emotions. When the emotions are there right in our face, we can't see clearly. All we can see is the emotion. See it, feel it, be gripped by it. So what the process of Yoga Nidra does, it allows us to separate from the emotions, to observe. We can then think about what our challenge is and how to manage it more effectively and bring that into our lives. So the purpose of me writing this book was to do simple practices so that we could see ourselves more clearly and bring that clarity of mind into life. I don't see any point in doing yoga and having blissful experiences and then you get back into life and all hell breaks loose. The purpose for me of practicing yoga is so I can take that inner experience and have that objectivity in my life so that when there are challenges, I can step back from it. I can take a few moments to reassess. I mean, some situations are very drastic and traumatic and we just get pulled into fight, flight, freeze. And as I say, all the yoga goes out the window. But having said that, that process of witnessing can still be there. So you observe, I've stopped breathing, breathe. First thing to do is breathe. Slow the breath down. Okay, now I'm breathing. What choices do I have? What can I do? It starts from there. So this is bringing the yoga experience. And when I say yoga, I include asana, pranayama, mudra, bandha, yoga nidra, meditation in that word. Bringing all those experiences we've gained into our life and realizing that we have a human body, we have a human mind, we have human emotions, and how do we utilize these effectively for the benefit of ourselves and others? Yeah. So this was my purpose in writing the book, and at the back of the book I have written a section on family. One day I'll expand that a little bit more, and I've suggested a little acronym to assist us in managing ourselves. When we have that objectivity, then we can say, what is our strategy here in this situation? Or on the other hand, when we see that, I keep getting myself in that situation again and again, different people, same situation, same story happening here. So what is my strategy to manage that in a healthy way, where I'm self-empowered, where I'm not losing my power, where my emotions might start to get a little bit intense, but I can have some control there. What is the strategy? This is what needs to be thought about. And then also having an appreciation of self as well as the other person. The other person's teaching us something. It's very easy to blame. It's very easy to criticize. It's very easy to become the victim. It's called the drama triangle of pain. You know, and we move from one thing to the next. Either we're blaming and criticizing and you did this and you did that and it's your fault and so the story goes on. It's always painful when we do that. Or if we're the victim, I can't do anything, it's your fault, then we blame. I'm here because you put me here. I have no responsibility in this because I'm the victim. I have no choice. I'm the victim. Yeah. I always say there's always two choices. We may not like either choice, but we have choice. It's a saying, I had no choice. Think about it. You did have another choice. It might have been a very unpleasant choice, but there's always a second choice. And it depends how you go about expressing that choice. And then we want to rescue. We want to rescue other people. I know what's good for you. I can help you. Neither of those three types of behaviour are ever going to work. It disempowers us, it disempowers the other person. So having a strategy where we can step out of those behaviours and start to appreciate the learning, that can be hard. I'm not saying it's easy. We can talk about this, but when we go to put it into practice, there's the challenge. Yeah. What is it that we can appreciate? We need to look for that. It might only be one little thing. And then having respect. I think appreciation and respect really go hand in hand in many ways. Respecting ourselves, being respectful. This is another challenge. Speaking up for ourselves in a way that's respectful of ourselves and the other person, where we're not shouting, we're not blaming, we're not criticising. So the strategy might be to say, this really isn't working for either of us. Let's have some time out and come back when we're a bit more clear-headed. So that's being respectful too, because you're not going to get anywhere when you're caught in blaming, criticising, victiming, rescuing. Understanding that all we can do really is give information, and the information is, it's not working at the moment. Let's just work out how it is going to work first. And by doing that, we're taking responsibility. So the next word is taking responsibility. Taking responsibility for our choices. If we take responsibility, then we're not going to be the victim. Things happen to us in life. I understand that. Things happen that are out of our hands. But taking responsibility for what we're going to do about it, what we're going to do next about it. Considering all the other aspects I've spoken of. And then the boundaries, creating the boundaries. When there's respect, I think we automatically create a boundary. This is what I will do, this is what I won't do. This is creating a boundary. Clear-cut boundaries. Sometimes the boundaries aren't clear enough. We're too wishy-washy. And then we think, I didn't want that person to do that. Well, did we speak up and say what our boundary was? Yeah. So then in the book you'll find that this is discussed about these 5 aspects. And yoga is the process whereby, as I said, we're observing ourselves, and then we can implement, ideally, our strategies, our appreciation, our respect, taking responsibility, making the boundaries clear. Yeah. when we're able to do this type of behavior, then what that does for us as individuals, it empowers us. It also empowers the other person. And empowering is a really important word to look at. Power. Power. Power can be physical, emotional, mental, and in yoga, energetic. Drawing on the power of your energy body. So in yoga we say that to balance the mind and to balance the body, we need to balance the energies. And this is where that process, and I'm going in a full circle, this is where this process of asana, body posture, comes in, because it strengthens the energetic body. The pranayama breathing strengthens the energetic body. All those practices strengthen the energetic body. And if you're wondering what I mean about energetic body, it relates to the body's heat. We can experience that by pushing the palms out, bringing the palms close to the cheeks, but not actually touching the cheeks. Can you feel that heat? Heat is energy. Heat has light. Heat has vibration and sound. We can't hear the sound. I bring my hand up. I can't hear it, but I can feel it. And this energy moves through the body systematically. And there are energy, we call them wheels of energy, vortices of energy, located in proximity to the nerve plexi in the body. And some people will be very familiar with this. We have a base energy center just at the coccyx, just below the coccyx bone, and we call this some people call it the earth chakra. Chakra means a swirling mass of energy. It's the base energy center, and completely at the opposite end, right at the very crown of the head, is another energy center. So we have our North Pole and our South Pole, our polarities, just like the Earth has a North Pole and a South Pole. And the energies are moving between these two polarities. So one is like the positive and one is like the negative. And because they are opposite, they're moving. You know, when you get two magnets, North Pole and South Pole, close together, they just want to go like that. Yeah. So these polarities don't go like that because there are other energy centers in between. It's a bit like our, solar system going around the sun. And this base energy center needs to be grounded. If it's not grounded, then all the energy just goes up here and we're in our heads. So the yoga practices help to keep the energy moving between all the centers. My oldest son, he's in second year uni, and sometimes he's doing engineering, too much energy in the head, too much thinking, too much mathematics, or gaming on the computer. And the naturopath suggested that he put his feet in really hot water with Epsom salts, magnesium, to bring the energy down. So we can do physical things to bring the energy down. We can focus mentally on doing this if we have enough control over the energetics of the body. We can do yoga practices to bring it down, to keep the energy moving freely. But we need to know the technique. We need to know I'll call it the checks and balances. It's no good just opening a book and reading something and thinking, oh, that sounds like a good idea, let's try it. And then you totally destabilize your mind as well as disturbing the energetics in the body. You need to know the thorough process of how to do this. And in yoga, it is this process: asana, pranayama, mudra, bandha, yoga nidra, meditation. That way we work on all the chakras in between. We work on the whole energy system. So the earth chakra grounds us, and it enables us to connect with the physical earth, with nature, and it means that we also need that contact. When we don't have contact with nature, that also destabilizes us. And so you might have noticed when you're continually working in the city and then you get out into nature and you go, oh, you know that feeling? And it's almost like you can breathe again. It's almost like you weren't breathing. And you just feel the peacefulness of nature and your body soaking it up at a cellular level. So this actually, it feeds the Muladhara, the base chakra. In yoga we call it Muladhara. Mula is the root, like a potato. So you can call it the potato chakra. Growing in the earth, and its roots going out into the earth. It's your base support, just as the pelvic floor is. The Muladhara chakra, your potato chakra, is your base support. And on top of this, all the other chakras are resting. Now, some people say to me, oh, I've had this part of my body removed. Does that mean I don't have that chakra? Not at all. Because we're talking about the energy body. So the Muladhara chakra, the base chakra, exists in your energetic body. You felt the heat from your hands. Your body is emanating warmth and heat and energy. So the chakra, that swirling mass of energy, resides in your energetic body. And we store information here as well. There is consciousness in every part of the body, in every cell. There is consciousness in your Muladhara chakra. And the consciousness here says to you, I need to survive. I need to be safe. And some people need that more than others. You know, I don't know about here in Vancouver, but in Australia the young men like to get these, you call them trucks, I call them utes. They like to get a ute for their first car and roar down the street as fast as they can. Did you ever do that? Can you remember doing that? So I think teenage boys don't really care about their safety so much. Can someone vouch for me at that level? Less aware of safety. Yeah. I mean, teenage girls too, but probably teenage boys more than teenage girls. So that's the Muladhara chakra. You know, as we mature more and we realize more about what it means to be safe and secure, the Muladhara chakra is influenced in that consciousness. And then as you move up through the energy system, you come to the energy system within the sacral spine, which is to do with enjoying life and expressing enjoyment, expressing sensuality. Some people call it the sex chakra because sensuality includes sexuality here and having sexual experience. It's more than that. It is that and more. And so it's about enjoying, playing, having fun and learning. I always think that the best learning comes when we enjoy something. And I take my mind back to school and I think of a subject that I really enjoyed and the teacher was so boring, it really spoilt the subject for me. And then I had another subject that I wasn't very good at. I found really hard, but the teacher was fun, so I really looked forward to going to that class. Yeah, so we have a saying that we learn through the hard experiences, but it's much easier to learn through the pleasurable experiences and retain that. We remember the hard times and what we learned. That is one way of learning, but it is always better to learn if we're learning some specific subject. So the hard experiences that we learn in life stick in the mind, but the specific subject that we're studying, be it yoga, be it mathematics, physics, chemistry, anything, if it's fun while we're doing it, then we'll remember it. Yeah. And if we can learn it with music, it's even better. So as we move up the system and we come to the third energy center behind the navel, and these are located, as I said, in proximity to the nerve plexus. So we're talking along the spine. All this information from the chakras is received by the physical body, by the nerve plexus, sent through the central nervous system to the brain. So that's why I keep saying it's about the brain. Everything's about the brain. And this center is about personal power, being in our own power, or giving our power away, or trying to control somebody else. We've all tried that. Doesn't really work. And we keep trying. I have no idea why we keep doing it, but we do. I suppose we guess maybe one day it'll work. Or it can work when we're super controlling, kid's naughty, whack the kid, and it gets into maybe a worse tantrum sometimes. But then, the kid then fears being hit. It's not really a good way to learn, is it? There must be other ways that we can teach children rather than hitting them. Yeah. Is it illegal here? Yeah. It is in Australia too, but you still see it. Yeah. Parent doesn't know what else to do. Parent hasn't learned any other behaviours. Especially going through the supermarket and at the checkout there's all these lollies. Yeah, that's the hard one. Some of our shopping centres have lolly-free. What do you call them? Lollies, bonbons, sweets, candy, that sort of thing. We have some aisles that are free of that. Yeah. But they're usually got a line. Very long. Yeah. So being in control of ourselves is a real challenge. It's very challenging, and this is where yoga starts from, because in order to do the practices you need to be self-controlling. Yeah. Controlling of the body and finding the balance in that. Not pushing the body too far. Then you strain something. Finding the balance with control. Controlling the emotions. Finding a balance to that. Finding an outlet where the emotions can be expressed in a balanced way. So it's a fine line. It's a challenge, weighing up the scales for being self-controlling. So we have the postures to control the body. To control the emotions in yoga, we have the pranayama breathing. Very good for controlling emotions. Slow, deep breathing. And those practices also empower the Manipur chakra. It's called Manipur. City of jewels. Money, not as in money, dollars, but money means jewels. So it's a city of jewels. It glistens. And it's where our vital physical energy emanates from, the navel center. So as we do the breathing and we're moving the diaphragm area with control, and it's sending messages through the central nervous system to the brain. It works on what we call the reptilian part of the brain, the old brain. And it also works through to the area that controls emotions. And I think sometimes people say to me, so if there's one practice I'm going to take home, what is that practice? And I'm always thinking, oh, is it breathing or yoga relaxation? I find it really challenging to say one practice. I think there's two practices. You can combine them together to create one practice. Slow, deep breathing while lying on your back, and on the exhalation, letting go, relaxing. This brings control into that third energy center. And that energy center connects to your digestive system. So it massages your digestion. When we're emotional in any way, it affects our digestion. In yoga we say that the digestive system, or the legs, are the motor of the digestive system, which is functioning the whole body, the brain, the mind, the emotions. So legs meaning moving, walking, running, that type of movement, push bike. And the breathing, working on the third energy center, working on the digestive organs, and working on the hormonal system as well, and the adrenals. Yeah. So the breathing's also working the lungs, which takes us up to the fourth center. We call it the heart center. And if we're controlling our breathing, the rhythmic breathing, if our exchange of gases is operating to optimum, then it's affecting our heart as well. Yeah. It's affecting the emotions in the gut, but the emotions at the heart level. And I think we have emotions in many areas of the body, but mainly we feel them here. We can feel the emotion at the throat too, when the emotions get stuck at the throat. We can't get it out. Fifth energy center, center of expression, verbal expression, hearing and expressing. So it's about communication. Heart center's about feelings and emotions to do with love, sense of belonging. The one down below, emotions to do with being self-empowered. Emotions below to do with the sensual world. Emotions below to do with security. So there's emotions at all levels. And this is the emotions that we express through our voice. Singing, talking, whispering. Yeah.
That include writing?
Writing, yes. It's an expression of the mind. Any creative expression, any form of expression, I say creative, but any form of expression is enabled by the throat center.
Right.
And heart too, because if your heart's not in it, you can't do it.
Art, right.
Yes, art. Sorry, I heard heart. Art, yeah. And so these experiences of the chakras from the throat down are really to do with the human experience. We say that the lowest center connects us into the animal kingdom. It connects us into nature, the animal kingdom, the mineral world, plant world, all the kingdoms below the human. So in between we have the human realm, and then we come up into what we call, we start to enter into the area of what I call divine, which I find it's a challenging word for some people, what am I expressing in divine? It connects us into what is beyond human. I call it divine. It connects us into the area of the third eye. So we know the third eye area here. This is actually the energy field projecting out for the third eye, which is located at the top of the brain stem in the region of the hypothalamus. So it's to do with the higher brain functions, and it's to do with connecting in with your inner being. The inner being which can connect into whatever else is more subtle out there. So we all have different words for this. In yoga we talk about Atma. Atma means the most subtle consciousness within us, not mind. There is consciousness in the mind. There is consciousness in every cell. And that mind or cell in the body is made up of energy. So in yoga we focus on these two aspects: consciousness, which is the silent witnesser behind everything, and energy, which is kinetic and doing. Mind is always doing. Therefore I say it's energy. Consciousness sits back and looks. It doesn't judge. Mind judges. Mind criticizes. Consciousness is simply there, perceiving. And we can awaken our mind to that consciousness, or we can be ignorant of it. Yoga assists us in awakening our minds to become aware of consciousness. You can feel it in the room when I talk about it, can't you? So everyone's mind's listening, and sitting behind that, observing, is Atma, consciousness. We talk about in yoga individual consciousness and the overall collective consciousness as one enormous Atma. We're all made up of individual consciousness. But why is it individual? It's because the mind is individual. When the mind disappears, it's just collective. So everything's about a perception of the mind, isn't it? Yeah. When you were a child and you perceived something to be real, your toy is your toy, and your friend stole it or hid it or did something to it, put something silly on it. And so you had all those reactions, and now as an adult you just laugh at the situation. Maybe not. Maybe you're still upset about it. You know. So it's all to do with perception. The mind is growing. Yoga enables our mind to grow. Sometimes the mind doesn't want to grow. It just wants to stay where it is. It wants to stay static. But life doesn't allow that, does it? And we feel pain. Pain is movement in the static way of being. When the mind's static and force of circumstance in life, and it feels painful mentally, emotionally. So how can we adjust our mind to that new scenario or environment? How can we make the adjustments without that pain? It's a challenge. Yoga gives us certain tools, and the book Energy, the Spark of Life gives us certain tools. They're all ideas that we can employ and see if it works for us individually. Yeah. And I thought this evening that we would do some practice as well, so that we get a taste of the possibilities. Because I think that, you know, we can talk and talk and talk, and until it's an experience, it's empty words. When we have that experience, then we know, oh yes, that can work for me. Or I didn't quite get it, but I think if I do it a little bit more, it will be beneficial. So we're going to do a breathing technique. And this is a really useful breathing technique for balancing the brain hemisphere activities. And the right side of the brain is governing the left side of the body. Left side of the brain is governing the right side of the body. And you can feel through your breath which brain hemisphere is predominantly active by breathing out onto your fingertips. And you do that with a little bit of force. Breathe through your nose. Have the fingers close. Or if you've got a mobile phone that hasn't got a cover on it, put the phone there and breathe out onto the glass top. And have a look at the water vapour formation. No one with a mobile phone? Oh, you're innovative, using your glasses. And then you have a look. Can you see the water vapour there? Was there more on one side?
There was more on the left.
More on the left side. Anyone else notice more on the left side? And is my talking allowing you to feel sleepy? Go on, don't be shy, admit it. I won't be embarrassed.
The context is more on your left side.
Yes.
Feeling sleepy.
More on your left, more breath on, more air or more vapour on your phone on the left side.
Plus feeling sleepy.
That the two things can go hand in hand. If you can't sleep well at night, lie on your right side, left nostril open, you'll get a better sleep, providing you have no problem sleeping on your right side.
So if it's left, then you should sleep on your right side.
So what happens is, if you're tossing and turning in bed, feel your breath, it's probably in the right side. So when you use the phone technique or your glasses or your fingers and breath is in the right nostril, mind is more extroverted. The energy is in the limbs. It's good for being active. So if you've been sitting here listening to me and feeling fidgety, your breath in your right nostril is an indicator you do need to move. When we practice yoga asana postures, it's good to practice when the breath is in the right nostril, because we're being physical. Whereas breath in the left nostril is good for creative, artistic works. Yeah. Or falling asleep.
You say the left?
Left for sleeping. Left for sleeping. Yeah. And when we practice the alternate nostril breathing, what we do is we bring a balance between this natural biorhythm of the breath moving from right nostril to left. It does this. Throughout the day and night, it is changing. There can be obstruction sometimes if you've got growths, polyps in the nose. This can obstruct the airways, which means one side of your brain is getting more stimulation than the other. Yeah. If you have a deviated septum here, where the nose looks a bit crooked, can happen if you've been playing football or soccer or something. So you get more airflow through one nostril. One side of the brain is getting more energy than the other side of the brain. Therefore, we do alternate nostril breathing, making sure that the other side of the brain is stimulated. Yeah. When we do the alternate nostril breathing, we alternate using the right hand, and usually people are wired in such a way that energy flows in left hand and out right. This is the usual flow, like the east-west electromagnetic field around the earth. So our east-west electromagnetic field is in, left, out, right. So we create an energy circuit, bringing the right hand to the face. And we close either the right or left nostrils by using the thumb and the ring finger. And the two fingers in between, middle and index, placed at the eyebrow center, give us a point of reference to focus on mentally. So we breathe in, for example, right nostril, and imagine the air flows right up to that point. And then we exhale, imagine the flow going down the other nostril. We breathe up that nostril and down the other. So we do this alternate nostril breathing in this way. Now, the important thing here is when you close your nostril, you don't push the flare of the nostril in. When you push the flare of your nostril, either with your thumb or your ring finger, like that, if you push the flare of the nostril in, it squashes the cilia, the hairs in your nose, against the mucosal lining. It means that when you breathe in and out, the hairs are stuck there. If you push further back, the hairs move. That's what's important for the brain. The hairs moving means you get a nervous impulse to the brain. So what happens is there's a cycle of the breath, mainly in one nostril for an hour, then the other for an hour, but it might vary due to foods that you have eaten, the climate, your mental state, mental emotional state. It can affect the mucosal lining. We have erectile tissue in the nose. You know when you've been crying and your nose blocks up? The mucosal lining swells. So this happens normally throughout the day and night. One side swells up a bit so you get more airflow through the other nostrils. And this information is actually in my other book, In Depth. I have mentioned it in Energy, the Spark of Life. It's in depth in Swara Yoga, which is about the breath in right, left nostrils. So the alternate nostril breathing allows you to get more air, but it allows you to get the nervous stimulation through the nervous system to the brain. Yeah. And this is the beauty of alternate nostril breathing. If you're falling asleep and you're studying, breathe in right nostril, out left, in right, out left, in right, out left. Do that 10 times, 15, 20 times. You'll be more alert. If you can't sleep at night, lie on your right side, get more airflow happening through your left nostril. Okay? So now the alternate nostril breathing, and we need to be able to sit upright so that the nervous impulses can flow freely through the central nervous system. If you haven't got a seat, there's a couple of seats here if you like. A few seats over there if you like. Yeah. And we use the right hand, placing the middle index fingers at the eyebrow center. So feel the top of the eyebrows. Fingers rest here. When you do that, if you find that you're pushing your head to the side to see that it is centered, eyes are open at the moment. When you close your nostrils, just experiment. Thumb closes further away from the flare of the nostril. It's a little bit firm there. You don't need to push too firmly. The ring finger will push against the left nostril behind the flare. So can you feel that it closes the nostril when you do that? Yep. You can bring your hand down. When we breathe, we count mentally so that inhalation and exhalation are equal. If you're breathing in comfortably for 3 counts, 1, 2, 3, then do 3 counts. You need to exhale in the same way, 1, 2, 3. If you're very proficient at this, you might be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you exhale 6. Okay? You might breathe in for 10 counts, exhale 10 counts. It needs to be comfortable. Yoga is about being comfortable. So we have the spine upright. We have the right hand in position, right at the middle of the eyebrows. Middle index fingers gently touching there. It's a point of reference for your mind to focus on as you breathe up the nostril. Close your eyes. Close your left nostril with your ring finger, and as you breathe in through the right nostril slowly, count mentally. Close the right nostril, open the left, and exhale for the same count. Left breathing in, same count. And right breathing out, same count. This is one round.
Thank you.
Continue on, breathing in right, count mentally, and follow the breath as if you breathe up to the eyebrow center. Breathe down from the eyebrow center, left nostril, same count. Left in again. And right out. Continue practicing counting. If you're unable to get sufficient airflow through a nostril, use your left hand to pull that sinus open. So you pull the sinus or the cheek open while inhaling or exhaling or both. You'll get more airflow. Keeping the eyes closed, practicing one more round. Keep the eyes closed. Bring your hands to your knees. And with the eyes closed, feeling the experience in the body, how the body is feeling. After a few rounds of alternate nostril, awareness of how the mind is feeling. And then allow part of the mind to step back and look at your body as if your mind is a satellite looking down on the body, observing the body from a distance. We'll sit for a few minutes in a very brief yoga nidra, introduction to meditation, where if it's comfortable to turn the palms up, we do that, and if not, do whatever feels comfortable. So we'll be sitting for 5 minutes or so in that state of witnessing your body, feel that you are comfortable, can be still for a few minutes. Spine is upright and back is comfortable. Adjust yourself to be comfortable. And bringing the mind fully into the body, let the mind fill the feet, the legs, the hands, the arms, torso, neck, head, and breath. Fully present in the body and breath. And as you exhale, let the right arm completely relax. The whole arm, fingers to the shoulder, relaxing as you exhale, letting go. And then the left hand and arm relaxing, letting go. Fingers to the shoulder, relaxing. Both arms simultaneously relaxing. Right leg, hip to the toes, relaxing. Left leg, hip to the toes, relaxing. Both of the legs. Feel the torso relaxing. Neck and shoulders. Throat. Muscles of the skull. And facial muscles relaxing. Whole face, whole head, whole body, from the top of the head to the tips of the toes, feeling relaxed as you sit, breath moving effortlessly, body breathing in, body breathing out. Feel the breath on autopilot and know that you are the observer of this experience. Have a mental image of where you are seated in this building in Vancouver. Full awareness. And take a slow breath in and out. And start to move gradually the fingers, the body, and opening the eyes. So practice of yoga can be effective in less than 10 minutes. That was effective, wasn't it? Yeah. Less than 10 minutes is doable. You can have yoga snacks during the day. Slow the breath down. Yeah, be aware that you're tensed, and have a yoga snack. Slow the breath for a few minutes. Oh, that's better. And off we go again. Yeah. So I'll finish my talk this evening with the idea of a yoga snack. It's the one snack you can do any time of the day or night. And no calories. If you're concerned of calories. Oh, someone's flashing dark chocolate at me at the back. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
In yoga we say Hari Om Tat Sat, means the eternal truth is true, it's real. So a friend of mine in her yoga class says Hari Om Tat Sat, and one of the students comes up afterwards and says, why do we say peace at the end of the class, Om Shanti, peace, peace, peace? Why do we say peace and hurry home, that's that? So I'm not telling you to hurry home and that's that. But I am suggesting a yoga snack. Thank you.
Thank you.